today was practice 6. So spring's going fast, and finished our second week up. And it's a reminder, having not had it last year, of how valuable spring practice is, and sure appreciate these opportunities. And so certainly got to take advantage and make the most out of each one. And we got kind of the way the schedule's laid out. You practice day, and then you have a good meeting day, and then followed by a practice day. And so kind of feel like our kids are into that rhythm and routine, and there's opportunity. And I've been really pleased with some of our better players doing a good job of taking advantage of this opportunity and finding ways to kind of hone some skills. And I think it speaks to the value of spring football is there's still, doesn't matter if you've played a lot of snaps or not, you can get a lot out of it. And then I think there's certainly a group of guys that haven't played that are doing a good job of taking advantage of the reps that they're getting. And for that, as a coach, you certainly notice it, and you appreciate it. And their opportunity is now. And I think that all our guys got to understand that what you do now will set you up for the work and in many ways the role that you'll have in the fall. So, then you got another group that's got to, I think, do a better job of taking advantage of those opportunities. So, like every team been around, you kind of got guys in different spots, and our job as coaches is to help them all grow and to get better.
Jeff?
Well, you mentioned, some of your better players taking advantage of this. I'm just curious, Danny Davis is our first practice today, but it looks like he should be able to give you some things on offense next year. What kind of senior year do you expect for him, and how much did you miss him and prior as well last year?
Yeah, it's we were just talking about Danny the other day, and I think you'd remember this too. I mean, there's been a lot of springs where Danny hasn't had, so just being able to take this time where you can truly hone in on some specifics, in his case, route running and kind of, he and the older receivers should have a better understanding of kind of offensively, what are we really trying to get done with the play. And I think that's what I've also liked about Chim. Chim has done a good job, I think, this offseason, where he's kind of put himself into that group where you kind of, not only has he played, but the way he's approaching it. So Danny, KP, Dunner, and Chim, I think those are 4 guys that you've played enough snaps where they've got to take those experiences in games and use it to help them in the now. And certainly, we're all working towards the fall, but I think that all the guys, Danny included, will get the most out of spring if they're just focusing on the spring and not even, trying to do too much there, but, 1 or 2 things and really get those things down, whether it's a technique or, a specific, on releases or whatever that may be. But I've liked the way that I think he's been purposeful in his work and appreciate that. And he needs to be, he needs to be a guy that is acting like a veteran.
Paul, over the last week or so, we've heard some guys talk about the camaraderie that they're starting to feel with this team, actually being able to be around each other as opposed to the fall. How important do you think that is, and how much have you seen that maybe translate to the practice field so far?
Well, I think it's a work in progress, but it has been nice. And I think that's one area that I think all of us that have been on teams, you really value. And that is that coming together and getting to know each other and getting to know each other in different areas. And certainly, when you're in the season, it's there's a different rhythm to it. Where in the off season, whether it's off season conditioning or off season, spring practice, that you can kind of you can operate a little bit different. So you can come together. You're not necessarily it's a different type of clock that you're on. And so I think that, we're starting to get it. When we were in the winter, we didn't have, one workout where we had the whole team together. And so I think that's where this spring practice has been nice. And, but I think for most teams, it's a big part of it. And we certainly got to take advantage of that. And we're working on it and building it.
Jesse?
Paul, how challenging is it to get through a practice when you're down to one running back? And in general, just with injuries, is it numbers at other positions make it harder to accomplish your goals this spring at all?
It certainly impacts it. And that's where you try to do and be as creative as you can and do as much that you can with it. And when, one position is down in numbers or low on numbers, it can affect others, because one of the great things about spring practice is you want the ability for a lot of guys to get reps. And the first thing to go is the number of reps when you don't have it, or the guys that need the reps aren't practicing. And so, we got to continue to do the best we can. And the guys that are, dinged up, got to try to get back as quick as they can, but it certainly has an impact.
Cool.
Coach, you mentioned Danny. I was wondering about AJ Abott. He had a couple nice catches today, but I know he's been kind of on that cusp the last couple of years. Where do you think he's at in his development? And do you think he's a guy that might be able to break through this season?
Yeah, I mean, that's the certainly the hope that he has and the hope that we have. And I think that AJ's I think he's there's a group of guys like AJ that spring football is so important for. And I think I've appreciated the way that he's approached this spring. And it didn't just start, when we started spring practice, all winter, the way that he's come in so that he was ready for spring practice. And I think, that's the group, kind of the ones that have been on the cusp, that this is an opportunity. And to make the most of it, it's, do I know what I'm doing? And then go out and do it. And then can I do that at a consistent level? And so I think that, that certainly it's important for everyone, maybe in different ways, but for guys like AJ, I think that's spring is really big for him, because, and I think he's done some good things to start with, and needs to continue. So, we got 6 practices in, you got 9 more opportunities. And I think there's a guy that you'd say really needs to take advantage of all those.
Hey, Coach, sorry if this has already been addressed, but just wanted to ask anyway about the energy of the outside linebackers, wanting to bring that energy back this season. What have you seen so far in the group, and what do you hope to see throughout spring practices? Yeah, I love that group. And, Coach April does a great job with them, but that group has energy. It's not manufactured. It's authentic. And, it's got a good mix of different personalities, but I think they have a commonality in that they love the game and they will work. And so you appreciate that out of them. And it's noticed. It's noticed by our whole team. And like I said, there's a lot of different personalities in it, and each guy, I think, does a good job of kind of staying within who they are. But it's certainly, as everyone knows, when we're playing really well at that position, it not only helps our defense, I think it helps our whole team. And that's Noah's played and been in the program for a while, and Isaiah's been around but hasn't been able to do a lot. And then you got a lot of young guys, and so that development within that group is
it's big for us, but it's been fun to see them work day in and day out.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep. Thank you.
Got time for a couple more. We'll go back to Jesse.
Paul, what have you seen through 6 practices from your field goal kicking game with Colin and Jack? What's stood out to you?
Well, I've liked their approach. Today, we kind of changed it up and did a little bit, and I think we got to be better than they were today. And they know that, and so it's now you're going to be looking for the response to it. But it's I think all in all, I've liked the way they've approached things, and yet I think we got to do more. Find different ways to create situations that kind of mimic the game for them and give them opportunities to respond in the fashion they want to, and certainly we all want them to.
All right, we'll wrap things up with one more from Jeff.
Yeah, Paul, we talked to Graham about some of the things he examined in the offseason that he needed to do better. Again, this is just our first practice, your 6th practice. What have you seen from him based on how he finished last year and what he wants to accomplish in the fall?
Yeah, I think that, to start with, I've loved the way that he's approached everything, and it's coming from a great spot. I mean, he will work, and it's important to him, and not just his play, but how can he be the best teammate that he can be? He understands, I think, properly kind of the whole role, and spring's been, spring is really good. His first spring, I don't think, really had a clue to what all was going on, and then to be able to have some of the experiences that he's had, and now to have a spring, I think you gotta be careful. We do, and he does. There's a lot we want to work on, and yet I think you got to make sure that you focus on and emphasize a few things initially, right? You don't want to focus on everything and not really accomplish making really significant strides in just a little bit here, a little bit there, you got to focus on a couple of things. So I've liked his approach a lot, and I think that has done some good, and very coachable, and yet I think there's it's almost simplifying it to try to help him get better, and not necessarily, by no means that mean dumbing it down, but just kind of what are we really trying to work on? Let's focus on these 1, 2, maybe 3 things, and then we'll cover the next one after that. And so he sees it and gets that, and it's just holding him to it, but really enjoy working with him. And there's a lot of work to be done.